What's going on, Los Angeles football fans? And welcome into LAFB Live, recapping the Chargers and Rams games. Going to be very different vibes here this week as we talk about each game. Joined by Zach Alfers, who is one of the contributing writers here at the LA Football Network covering the Chargers. And then I'm going to get into the Rams game as well. But Zach, what's going on, brother? First time really being on the show. How you doing?
I know. Well, I wish it was on better circumstances, but I'm here. I'm glad we got the hour in between games because, like I was saying before we hopped on here, I am still sweating. My palms are. I'm angry, man. Chargers did not come to play today, and credit to the Ravens, but I'm happy to be here. Let's backtrack. I'm happy to be here. A little upset at the outcome of the play from my Chargers, man.
Yeah, we had to let a little bit time decompress and also wanted to hear some of the press conferences for both these teams. So Chargers lose in an embarrassing fashion at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, 34-6. And the Rams go to New York, expected to win big. I called it a must win just because of the team they were playing. And they did win big. 38-11 was the final after a garbage time touchdown by the Giants. But we're going to talk Chargers first, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Rams. Because there's a lot. I mean, I would say there's a lot to unpack, but there's really not. The team just played awful in all facets of the game. What was your just initial, I don't know, I want to say takeaway, but just thoughts throughout the game?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe you want to chop it up to jet lag. The Chargers didn't show up today at all. Got outplayed in all three facets of the game, and I think we even lost before we even took a snap. The game plan that Harbaugh put together was just a lot better than I thought that Staley's game plan was. And we just never gained our footing, right? They came out, had a big stop on defense, and that was it. It seemed like the Chargers could never just couldn't even gain yards. It was a tough day across the board. And you just look, everybody's had career off days. Justin Herbert had an off day, but he wasn't getting any help from anybody, right? There was drop passes, people on option routes just going the other way. It just wasn't our day. A lot of disconnect, I think, just from player to player. And then the coaching, I just didn't like our game plan coming in. And I think the Ravens executed across the board, and we simply did not.
Yeah, these are professional athletes, professional coaches. They all get paid to do a job, but it almost felt like with the hype that was coming into this team and, jumping up in the power rankings and everyone all of a sudden talking Brandon Staley Coach of the Year, which this is one game, so I'm not saying he's not, but that was the hype that was all of a sudden rolling on this team. And it's almost like they were drinking a little of the Kool-Aid and didn't quite prepare, whether they didn't prepare correctly or just came out a little too, I don't know if I want to say cocky or what, but they just looked flat the entire from beginning to end.
Well, and it's just right, and it just was uncharacteristic. Like, when have you seen Herbert just wide open, have time, and just overthrow his receiver? Like, that doesn't happen. And then when he's making those great throws that we are accustomed to seeing Herbert make, we're dropping the ball. We were just not clicking. And NFL is hard to win games consistently, right? We just won 3 games in a row. The Ravens now won 5 games in a row after today. Like, it is hard to do that consistently. And I think it was a lot of just kind of going through the motions. Like, you can't do that against a good football team on the road. And the Ravens brought it, and they made us pay.
Yeah. I mean, Ravens are a good football team. They're a Super Bowl contender. And we were talking a little bit before we jumped on how you look at the Ravens too, statistically, they didn't have any eye-popping numbers really, like by their star players. They were very consistent. The running game was working all day long. I think they almost hit over 200 yards total in rushing, but the leading rusher was Devonta Freeman with 53 yards. But they were just consistent. They were able to move the ball at will. Chargers defense would show glimpses, get a couple sacks here and there, and then would just fall right back into letting up big plays and letting him gash him. And they just could never really get in that sustained rhythm. And a lot of that stems from the offense never getting in rhythm either. Like, I know it's offense and defense and special teams, but you have to all play in unison for things to work well. And this was the worst offensive performance we've seen to date of this Chargers team for sure. Only 10 rushes. I mean, I guess Herbert had 2, so you have 12 total. I know they were losing, but Zach, talk about that, because I'm big on, me and Steven were on before the game doing our LAFB Live, and I'm talking about running game, and everyone talks about how it builds up play action and allows you to do things. But Brandon Staley himself says he loves the running game because it forces the defense to tackle and it forces physicality in the game. Why do you think they abandoned it so early? I know they were losing, but it's a long football game.
I think that's why, because it is all about establishing physicality. And when we ran the football, it was all Baltimore. You like to run the football because it lets your offensive linemen get after them. We were getting punched in the face when we ran the football.
Yeah.
And I think we abandoned it because they were just out physically. They brought the physicality in the physical aspect of the game that we were just lacking. And I think it just go back to the mental. Nobody brought it today on the Chargers.
Yeah.
Nobody coaching, anybody playing, even, the sideline wasn't even fired up like we saw on the Browns. Like that was a big part I thought about the Browns comeback was just the energy on the sidelines. That was all sapped today. And I just didn't even see it, through warmups, definitely not in the game. We're just lacking that it factor that got us to 4-1 entering the week.
Yeah. Can you find any bright spots from this game other than the fact that it's over and they can move on? Anyone you're like, oh, he had a good game?
Well, individually, I thought Nwosu and Kaiser White both played pretty well.
Yeah.
But then again, it was the flashes. They each had some good plays by themselves, but then, you turn around and give up a big 15, 20-yard run. It was just not consistent. So I think like you said, there was flashes of good plays, but I can't even call it good because of the outcome. We still gave up 34 points.
Yeah. It was cool to see Amen Ogbongbemiga, undrafted guy, get in there, get a start. Yeah. Obviously, it's due to injury, but it's nice to see him get his feet wet, get acclimated there, make some tackles. But yeah, just didn't have it today. Herbert, I thought, and we always talk highly of him, rightfully so, MVP candidate, but he had, I think, his worst game as a pro so far. Just a lot of that is credited to Baltimore's defense, but like you mentioned too, missing open receivers. There was some plays where, whether you want to blame the receiver or him, there's just like miscommunication. I don't know if it was a wrong route, if it was an option route, if they were reading it wrong. I think specifically to that fourth down play on their own 19-yard line, which was an interesting call. But hey, we've loved Staley doing it. We can't hate it now just because it doesn't work. Like, we still love the aggression. They had it there. I mean, Josh Palmer, whether you think it should have been Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, or Jared Cook, Palmer was open on the curl route. Herbert just threw it to a different spot. I don't know if it was a bad read or a bad throw. Either way, it didn't execute. The defense, what I will say, is on both fourth down attempts, the defense were able to hold the field goals. So I think that's why Staley feels comfortable doing that. But it just, it's hard to really get into it because there was nothing good from this game.
Well, I think the good that I'm taking away from it is that this is going to be a humbling loss, right? I don't know if we win, if we're 4-1 at this point, if without that loss to the Cowboys. Like, I really thought that loss to the Cowboys really woke up this team in general, and it opened their eyes, and they said, hey, we really have to bring it if we're going to win these next couple of days. And I think winning is just so intoxicating. And I think you are onto something, the fact that we were kind of just riding really high, and it takes one of these losses to get punched in the mouth to realize, all right, we aren't as good as we thought we were. What's amazing is we are 4-2. We've beat some really good teams, and we have yet to put together a full game. We put some good halves together. We've put, 3 quarters together. We haven't put all 4 quarters together. And there's a lot of things that need to come together. We have a lot of more gelling to do. But I think that is the exciting thing moving forward. We're not even close to our potential. And we honestly, we should be 5-1 right now. Either way, I don't know. There's a lot of good to look moving forward. I don't think this loss is, it doesn't decide our season, right? We got a lot of football left, and we're going into a bye. We're going to get a lot of key players coming back after the bye. And I think up to this point, even including the Baltimore game, we have the 4th easiest remaining schedule left. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of winnable football games on the horizon, a lot of momentum to be gained. So I think that's the positive I took. We're going to get better. And this, I think, loss just kind of is going to accelerate that.
Yeah, totally. And
process.
That's good. And that's a good way to kind of segue, because there was a lot of doom and gloom after this game, and rightfully so. And Twitter's always a place where people just very openly speak their minds in disgust and whatnot. And I saw a lot of tweets about how the Chargers are frauds and same old Chargers and back to, being a terrible football team and horrible organization and all this just like retread stuff. And it's like, okay, so Zach, make it clear. This was a horrible game. It was a bad game all around. Bad game plan, bad coaching, bad performance, bad execution. But now it's over. This is still a good football team. They've shown for 5 weeks prior to this game that they're a very competitive team. They can play with anyone. This was just a bad game. Now, like you said, they go to a bye week. They go back home, get the Patriots on Halloween, where they're going to want to, get that taste of that, 45-0 blowout loss last year out of their mouth. And I think they're going to come out firing. And I think we're going to see a great team in that week. And because this is a good team, it was just a bad game. One bad game does not define a season, right?
I saw this was just the second game that Herbert was held under 16 points in his career. The other one was that blowout to the Patriots. So, I mean, I guess that's the blueprint, keep the Chargers and Herbert under 16 points and you're going to blow us out. The thing is that is very hard to do, right? It's not time to throw the season out. Like, we are 4-2 and we're still the best team in the AFC West Conference. That is big. These are all positives. At the beginning of the year, how many analysts, how many fans had us at 4-2 at this juncture? Me included. I was going to be happy with 3-3, right? That was going to be a win.
Yeah, I think 3-3 was kind of the consensus of everyone that would be a successful, going into the bye week. So going in 4-2 and getting the schedule, lightening up just a bit because it was a gauntlet to start the year and getting more continuity, getting some guys back, missing some key contributors on defense. And I know that everyone's been upset with the defense and rightfully so, the worst rush defense in the NFL. But when you're losing 2 starting backers, you're missing your best run defender on the defensive line and Justin Jones. It's, sometimes that starts to add up. And when you play good teams like the Baltimore Ravens, who, they've had injuries of their own, but they're still known as one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. It just got to him this week. So rough one all around.
rough. And let's just chop it up to what it was. The Ravens played amazing today.
Yeah. Oh, they played flawless. I mean, well, Lamar did have 2 picks, but outside of that.
And those were like, I want to say, like, watching the game, those were really the only 2 plays that the Ravens weren't just 100% destroying us, right? And we forced 2 turnovers. The fact that we were still in it to start the second half, like, they should have blown us out in the first half. This is a good football team. The fact that we even had a chance in the second half, third quarter kind of got away from us, but there's a lot of good things to take away from this team. And I think the biggest thing, like I said earlier, we are not even close to firing on all cylinders and not even close to being the team that we can be.
Yeah. Not a lot of good to take away from this game, but good thing to take away through 6 weeks. So we'll keep it short and sweet because there's not a lot to get into. It was just a bad football game all around, but look forward to the future. And I think this team will rebound nicely, and we'll talk about it all week and the following week. And you'll have your article trying to dissect this game up here on LAFBnetwork.com here probably fairly soon. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I let's see. I have about 5 sentences right now. I think it's gonna maybe add a 10 more.
That's probably all you need.
There's not a whole lot to say. Like I was telling you before I come on here, I'm trying not to be so negative, but there's only a couple positives you can really take away from it. And I think all the positives are, this isn't the end of the season. There's going to be more football to be played. So that's going to be kind of my spin. So
I think the positives are, the clock reads 0-0 and they can move on and just
get on the next game.
Get back to LA and focus on the future. So, well, on that now, let's move to this Rams game because it was the polar opposite. It was so funny. Like I have to watch both games and I cover both teams. So I have, both TVs set up to both games. And it's like you watch one, the Chargers, and it's just, and you watch the Rams, like, just constant good stuff. And yet you see the press conferences. I'll let you kind of pose questions to me since you were obviously paying attention to the Charger game, but you see the press conference and Sean McVay and Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, it's almost like they lost. They were just not happy with their overall performance, specifically offensively. And that's the mentality, though, you want to see if you're a Rams fan, because it just shows that they believe they're even that much better. You score 38 points in the NFL against anybody. That's a solid week. You only give up 11. and yet they're not satisfied by it. And I think that's what's exciting about this Rams team. And it's funny, after a bad loss to Arizona and then a lackluster win over Seattle, and it's like all of a sudden everyone was down on the Rams, and then they came out this week again against a bad Giants team, but still they come out and say, hold on a minute, like, we're still a pretty damn good football team, and we're the cream of the crop in the NFC, maybe outside of Tampa Bay, but we beat Tampa Bay. And so I think they made a statement this week.
Well, just back to everyone just losing their heads over big losses. Tampa Bay got blown out by the Saints last year.
Yeah.
And you know how that ended up for them. So one loss is not going to deter a Super Bowl aspirations. But I guess, how do you win 38-11, go in a press conference and upset? Like, why are the Rams, did they want to win by 50? Like, that's the only other way I think you could be angry at a win like that.
I think for those that didn't watch the game, that the offense started off slow. The first quarter was, and that's been the theme of them, unfortunately, after the first like two games, is that just there's out of sync, out of rhythm. Stafford looks a little off in the first quarter, or first couple drives at least. And then they really got short field from the defense. The defense played, aside from that opening drive where they let the Giants go down and score 3 points, the defense was lights out. 4 turnovers, forcing 3 and outs. And they kept flipping the field, really good for the offense. And then the offense capitalized and scored a red zone touchdown. So I'm trying to see it from their lens, because I thought it was all good. But I think where Sean McVay is seeing it and Matthew Stafford is they need to get off to big, fast starts, because when they start playing Super Bowl caliber teams, they can't just play lackluster through a quarter and then turn it on in the second. So I think that's where the, negativity or criticism of themselves comes from. Which is good, though, which is what you want to see, because it's a team showing you that they, like you said with the Chargers, they also believe they have not reached their peak, and they're just going to get better and better. Stafford's going to get better and better. Cooper Kupp, who's just playing unreal right now, a top 5 receiver, had 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards again today, is going to get better and better. And, it's exciting to see that kind of mentality as they go into, the next week and the next game, because I feel bad for the team they play next, because you just feel like this offense is just going to keep rolling from this win.
Well, and then in your opinion, what do they need to do to get off to bet? I haven't really watched any Rams football this year, but like what has been stalling out their early drives, and what do you think they can do to get off to quicker starts?
Yeah, it's a good question. And some of it just looks like timing off, which is, you wouldn't think that at this point in the season. Now that's understandable the first couple games, because, new quarterback, getting used to his receivers. But there's sometimes in those opening drives where Stafford's just like a little behind his receivers, or just the timing's not there, or they're trying to come out firing too quick and need to just maybe establish the run earlier. I don't know if there's one set thing. I think it mainly just comes down to not excommunication, but execution. And just, sometimes you drop the play and you just go out and execute, and they're not really doing that. So Ram Fan Ashton here says, this is a good point. Running game and miscommunication with the wide receivers. So kind of like what I'm saying, just that mistiming, not quite on the same page. So I don't think it's anything that's concerning, but it's something that you, by week 7, 8, 9, for sure want to see cleaned up. And if you do, this is a team that can score 35 plus points every single week, no matter what defense they're playing. And so I think we'll see that. And it was good to see, the running game get going later in the second half, which you would hope so, considering you're up by 30 points or so. But it's, these Rams are a good team, man. And if you haven't watched any games, you should at least, when the Chargers aren't playing, flip one on, because they're kind of the standard, I think, of what they're building. And you can take a lot of good from that, and then kind of assess that to the Chargers, because I know the Chargers are doing a lot of things from what Staley learned in the Rams too. So they're a fun football team to watch right now.
Well, what is, you think, this might be like a super simple answer, but what do you think is the biggest difference between this Rams offense with Stafford at the helm compared to what it was with Goff leading the charge?
There's a few things. One is just arm talent. Goff had a solid arm. I think people don't like to give him credit for that, but he has a good arm. He's accurate. He can throw the deep ball, but Stafford's arm talent is a different level. He's got top 4 arm talent probably in the NFL. And then the main one, though, that I think is what's up here, the smarts, and what Stafford can do pre-snap, because what I always made a point about with McVay and Goff, I don't know if you remember on primetime games, they'd always talk about how McVay would be in Goff's ear until it clicked off in 15 seconds, basically coaching him like, okay, this is what I'm seeing from the sidelines. This is what you're going to do. Call us the line of scrimmage. It would cut off, and then Goff would go relay the message to his team. Stafford can now be McVay on the field, and McVay calls a couple plays. Stafford can dissect the defense pre-snap, get his guys in motion where he wants them to be, and then actually be able to go and execute it. So he gives you that above the shoulders awareness that Goff just didn't quite get to. And it was one thing that I talked a lot about when he was here. If he could have made that next leap, I thought Goff had enough arm talent, enough athleticism to go to that next level of quarterback play. Cause I think he's still a good quarterback. He can play in this league, but that's what he was lacking. And I think specifically like the Miami game last year, and some of these other games where, he just got beat up, and it was because he wasn't doing pre-snap reads. Like you see cover 0 and you have all your defenders eight yards off the ball, probably audible to a quick throw, just a bubble screen or something just to get ball out because you're having too many guys rushing you. And he wouldn't do that. He'd do a 5-step drop. He'd be looking for the deep pass and then get sack fumbled. Whereas Stafford can recognize that pre-snap, make those decisions, and then he can go through his, reads and stuff and side the sideline and make good plays. So those are kind of the biggest ones to me, but he's just a better quarterback.
Right. Well, and I mean, that mental aspect though, I think is so critical, because every quarterback we see in the league right now, they're all incredibly, gifted from an athletic standpoint, but there's a reason there's separation, right? There's a reason we have Justin Herberts, and now you have all of these young quarterbacks struggling. Like, not everybody has that. So it's interesting you point that out.
Oh yeah. I think I've talked a lot about just NFL talent, but you can say the same about quarterbacks too. Like actual physical talent from 1 through 32, take out maybe the top 2, take out Mahomes, probably Justin Herbert now, and Lamar Jackson. But just physical talent from like 3 to 32 is very minor. I mean, it's not a huge difference from a lot of these guys, but it's the mental aspect is where they separate. It's the preparation where they separate. It's the progression and reads they can do on the fly where they separate. And so that's where you see the great quarterbacks from the good quarterbacks to the barely starting quarterbacks or guys that are backups. But the actual physical tools are, it's very slim margin from a lot of these guys. So that's what I think that's been the biggest improvement I've seen of the quarterback play. And it's going to get better and better, I think, because we'll see that beginning 3-4 drives start clicking earlier instead of taking until the second quarter to get on the same page. And then the sky's the limit. So it's good stuff.
What is one thing that the Rams are doing very well at a high level this year that you think if the Chargers could figure out would elevate their game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean,
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm kind of running out of questions. So
no. Yeah,
we can back to my team. Bolt up, maybe.
There you go. Well, that's the point of it. We want to intertwine them all together. This is the LA Football Network. So we can kind of wrap up with this anyway, and we'll keep it short and sweet today. But I think what the Rams do really well is week to week, like adjustments. I know we talk about in-game adjustments and stuff like that, but one thing we've talked a lot about, especially with the defense now that Raheem Morris has taken over, is they're not as good of a defense as they were last year with Brandon Staley leading it, and the in-game adjustments haven't been quite as good. The run defense isn't nearly as good. The secondary hasn't been nearly good. A lot of us, I've talked a lot about how part of that too is, you lose some really key players in John Johnson and in Michael Brockers and among others. So, I mean, that hurts you as well. But we saw this week now, the defense come out and flat out ball. I mean, they got after Daniel Jones, like I said, forcing 4 turnovers, multiple sacks. Aaron Donald was all over the place. The secondary, even with Darius Williams out because he got injured on the short-term IR. We saw Robert Rousseau as a rookie getting his second start / play, if you will. I mean, whatever you call the secondary, if you're starting or not, but they're playing the same number of snaps with him and David Long. Come in and have his mistakes, but also bounce back and make some good plays. So I think what the Rams are doing really well, especially this year, is those week-to-week adjustments. And that's what we'll see with this Chargers team after this really horrible blowout loss, what kind of adjustments they can make. And it helps having the bye week now, too. A loss like this couldn't have come at a better time because now you have a full 2 weeks to flush it out, see the mistakes, make the adjustments, and go out and blow out the New England Patriots. And so it really, if you're going to have a bad loss, you never want to have them. But if you're going to have them, this was the perfect time for the Chargers to do it.
Well, and I hope they're stewing on it. I hope the footage of it is just playing through the locker room for the next 2 weeks because I want them angry. I want them pissed off because they did not show up today. They got beat down, and I want that to light a fire because when they're on, this Charger football team is as exciting as I've seen in a long time. So I hope that lights a fire. It's just too much talent right now to be having performances like that, in my opinion. I'm definitely not going to do it in back-to-back weeks. I know I'm going to call it back-to-back weeks because we're not going to play this week.
Yeah, there you go. And I think it will. I mean, every NFL coach is proud, obviously. You want a good product, but Brandon Staley's, too proud to have his team play this poorly. Similar to a Sean McVay. It's amazing how similar both these coaches are, which makes them so fun to cover in both these LA teams. So I think we'll see a good week of preparation or good 2 weeks of preparation, and this Chargers can come out and just forget this loss. And hopefully in 2 weeks we can do this again, and we'll be talking about a great Chargers win on Halloween, and we won't even have to bring up this Baltimore game. And hopefully the Rams are at 7-1 by that point, and things will be good. All will be good again in Los Angeles.
And USC and UCLA will both be ranked. It'll be a good.
There we go.
Yeah, let's go.
USC will be coming off a huge win in South Bend over Notre Dame. UCLA coming off a big win over Oregon.
There you go.
College game day at UCLA next week. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. I liked how we got to leave it on a high note, right?
Leave it on a high note. That's right. Zach Alfers, you're the man. At Zach Alfers on Twitter. He'll be coming out with his Chargers immediate reaction article on LAFB Network. We pretty much everything we said will probably be in that article, but
probably
it'll be great as always. And you also do your own podcast with Tyler. Go ahead and plug that. What's it called? Shock Therapy?
Yeah, Shock Therapy. You can catch us anywhere you get your podcast. Definitely give us a listen. We're just bringing it's two fans who love the Chargers, man. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, but give us a listen. We're here just to bring the energy. And I'm a little low today because we just got beat down, but I'm just trying to stay positive. Like we said, all this whole stream, we're only going to get better. And that's what excites me at this point.
There you go. I'll bring the positivity back up. So
yeah.
Thanks for joining me, man. Fun doing this. Tough loss, but Chargers will bounce back. Huge win for the Rams. Rams fans, congratulations on that. And we will talk to you all week long. We got Shock Therapy Pod. We got the LA Football Podcast and all of our great writing at LAFBnetwork.com. Zach, appreciate you, brother. Enjoy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, okay?
Hey, it's all better from here. Like I'm saying, I'm just looking at right? It can't get worse. It can't get worse.
There you go. So, all right, well, enjoy it. We'll talk soon. All right.